Morning. This is a second public hearing before the Division of Disability and Rehabilitative Services on the 4th day of August, 2025 at 10 a.m. at the Indiana Government Center South, 402 West Washington Street, Conference Center Room 3, Indianapolis, Indiana, and is also being live streamed with a remote attendance option via Zoom. This proposed rule will add 460 IAC 14.1 and repeal 460 IAC 14 rules concerning the Vocational Rehabilitation Services Program. Notice of time and place of this hearing was given as provided by law by publishing on July 2nd, 2025 on the Indiana Register. My name is Amanda DeRoss, and I have been appointed hearing officer by the Division of Disability and Rehabilitative Services. As the hearing officer, I will not answer questions or provide comments on the proposed rule during this public hearing. The sign-in sheet should be completed by all individuals desiring to be shown as appearing of record and shall be completed by those who desire to be heard during this hearing. If you have not already signed the sheet, please do so at this time. You will also find a copy of the proposed rule, the Small Business Economic Impact Statement, and the Indiana Economic Development Corporation's comments on the Economic Impact Statement. You are welcome to take a copy of each. Additionally, the proposed rule is posted on the FSSA's website at www.in.gov/FSSA under Rulemaking Notices and Updates. Oral statements will be heard today, and written statements may be handed to me, emailed to me at either amanda.deross@fssa.in.gov or FSSA rule comments at fssa.in.gov, or mailed to me at FSSA, attention Amanda DeRoss, 402 West Washington Street, room W451, Indianapolis, Indiana, 46204. Correspondence should be identified in the following manner. Comment regarding LSA document number 24-82. Comments will be accepted until the end of today, August 4th, 2025. Each person who speaks for the record is requested to clearly identify yourself by giving your name, spelling it, and identifying who you represent. Is there anyone who cares to be heard? You're good.
Yes, my name is Michael Miller. I'm an SE Plus lead for Shares Inc. in Shelbyville, Indiana. My name is Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L, Miller, M-I-L-L-E-R. Greetings, Amanda, and to whoever may be concerned. Shares Inc. appreciates the opportunity to participate in the additional public comment regarding the proposed changes to 460 IAC and consider the promulgation of 460 IAC 14.1. As established and successfully partner of Vocational Rehab and the Bureau of Rehabilitation Services in our great state for over 35 years. Annually, Shares Inc. serves over 115 new VR referrals in Shelby, Hancock, Rush, Howard, and Grant and surrounding counties. Shares Inc. has established our employment services program as a leader in the field and the outcome we produce in the collaboration with VR, transforming the lives of the participants we support. Shares Inc. has shaped the direction of vocational rehab in our state by participation in earliest supported employment work groups in the 90s, as a dedicated stakeholder in rate reform and implementation of the hybrid ES model, and as an active leader in the current Employment Services Advisory Group, as a leading agency in the BRS Discovery Cohort, and most recently as a provider yielding an exemplary rating as a Supported Employment Plus provider with VR. Shares Inc. is innovative in the work in getting people with the most significant disabilities into lasting employment outcomes that benefits both the job seeker we support and the taxpayers whose dollars fund these services. Shares Inc. hopes to continue our shared successes with vocational rehab, and as a CRP has crucial insights into the proposed changes to 4601AC14 that are currently under review. Shares Inc. as a CRP would like to have it noted in the public record that we appreciate the public comment has been available for these proposed changes. Recent changes within the BRS in regards to the authorized standards have created administrative and direct service burdens that take the focus away from letting Hoosiers with disabilities work, pay taxes, and make their way off benefits, and instead focus on bureaucracy that takes away from the true intention of supportive employment efforts in our state. To get more Hoosiers in the workforce, regardless of what disability supports they may need. It is noted that the current advisory group for CRP is administered by a for-profit vendor, CPG, who oversees the VR claim system while also providing a myriad of services in our state, many of which are outside the scope of CRP interests and voc rehabilitation or the Bureau of Rehabilitation Services. Shares Inc. as a CRP suggests that the CRP advisory group be administered by a nonprofit provider or a group that primarily is involved in the provision of employment services in our state. And also to require participation of people with disabilities that are currently utilizing or have utilized VR services. It is also noted that the same vendor, PCG, provides the majority of employment services training for employment consultants in our state. As a CRP, Shares Inc. sees potential conflicts arising from one vendor having so much involvement and encourages the state to seek out other training providers and advisors. Again, the focus should remain on how the CRP can assist Hoosiers with disabilities to achieve outcomes that will allow them to participate in working, career growth, and paying back into the tax structure that makes Indiana work. Overall, these proposed changes are a great leap forward and hopefully will ensure that CRPs like Shares Inc. are able to fill the mission of getting more people with disabilities the support they need to participate in truly American and Hoosier dreams, to work and to grow in a career, and to contribute to their own communities. Below are the sections of the proposed changes that Shares Inc. wishes to provide public comment on as a CRP vendor. Shares Inc. public comment by draft rule. 460 IAC 14.1-3-10. Authorization for service defined. This definition reflects a physical written authorization that is currently not shared with CRP vendors, and the section should reflect that the actual authorization is housed in CPS. The definition does not reflect an accurate description of what the authorization allows a CRP to engage in as a service provider, nor does it guarantee the vendor the ability to be reimbursed for approved services. CRP should have written correspondence before an authorization is reduced or altered. Ideally, a record of change to authorization should be recorded and communicated with CRPs. Currently, the BRS can alter these authorizations without notifying the CRP, resulting in the provisions of the service that then are not reimbursable. This CRP cites that the many authorizations altered in February and March of 2025 as an example of the VRS/VR altering authorities without notice to CRPs. Shares Inc. suggests that at least 2 business days of notification of proposed authorization reductions so that CRPs can respond accordingly. 460 IAC 14.1-26-3. Case closures for other reasons. Section 3(1)H should include language that includes the CRP's perspective on case closures for these reasons. The current language does not reflect actions that may cause a CRP to not safely provide services to a VR participant, including a participant exhibiting violent behavior, possessing drug or alcohol while receiving services, being under the influence of drugs or alcohol while receiving services, falsifying criminal history records, misrepresenting their employment history, and other CRP-specific policies that should be considered when VRP decides to close a case or keep a case active with CRP. Most of this could be added to Section 3P. 460 IAC 14.1-27-3, the service provider responsibilities. Section 3.5, the vendor agreement should be included in such public comments. CRPs have no input in the agreement as it currently stands. Authorizations as vendors need to be protected from alteration by VR and BRS. CRPs should have written correspondence before an authorization is reduced or altered. Currently, BRS can alter these authorizations without notifying the CRP, resulting in the provision of services that are then not reimbursable. Shares Inc. suggests at least 2 business days notification of the proposed authorization reductions so that CRPs can respond appropriately. Section 3.9, Having only 5 business days to respond to a referral is unrealistic and creates an unnecessary administrative burden. CRPs then typically have 1 or 2 administrators processing referrals, would essentially be on call 24/7 to respond to participants' referrals. Allowing 10 business days is more appropriate and allows time for the CRP to request additional collateral, discuss the case with the VR counselor, and make adequate provisions for staffing and any needed accommodations. Furthermore, it is important for VR to send accurate and complete referral documentations and timely authorizations to CRPs so that the appropriate staffing of all referrals can be made in the best interest of participants. It is also important for VR to respond in a timely fashion to provider questions regarding referrals. Section 49B should outline the process of written notices and the ramifications of receiving such notices and what potential remedies would satisfy such notices. This section needs clarification. 460 IAC 14.1-27-4, conflict of interest. 3 is vague. The section cites specific examples of what would be considered a false, inaccurate, misleading, or unfair advertisement. 460 IAC 14.1-27-5, job-related services providers. Section 5A2, Shares Inc. is in support of the required ACR training for staff providing direct-to-consumer job-related services. Section 5A3, while ongoing training is the best practice, who is providing this training? Is it up to the CRP to decide on this training, or will it be provided by VR? CRP should reserve the right to receive quality training and be able to select such trainings from a variety of providers. Current training by the subsidized training partner of the state does not meet the needs of those growing in this career field, nor does it meet the needs of the participants we serve. Competition in the training space creates more dynamic, relevant training content. This training content should be left to the discretion of the CRP. At minimum, this training component should be further defined in the rule. Section 5A4. This comment refers to Section 4 of the proposed rule. CRP should not be able to discuss with VR counselors about accepting referrals that have been established history with the CRP and the history of behaviors, lack of participation, and other violations of CRP policy that led to the previous case closure. Should be considered in the acceptance of a referral. For example, if a CRP has worked with a participant multiple times and written goals for reentry, and those goals were reasonable yet not met, a CRP should be able to decline a referral after discussion with the VR counselor and the VR CRP leadership. This section, as written, seems to imply that every referral should be accepted by a CRP. The language should include mitigating circumstances beyond insufficient staff resources. It should be noted that the best practice of a participant to choose a provider includes a pick list call to every available provider to make an informed choice of a CRP. Section 5B1, having only 5 business days to respond to a referral creates an unnecessary administrative burden. Allowing 10 business days is more appropriate and allows time for the CRP to request additional collateral. Discussion of the case with the VRC counselor and make adequate provisions for staffing and any needed accommodations. Section 5B2, Shares Inc. is in support of the VR making CRP ineligible for these reasons, as currently many providers have long wait lists, yet are still on the pick list. Shares Inc. requests that such notifications of unavailable CRPs be shared publicly or at least with neighboring providers in order to plan for an additional influx of referrals due to lack of local providers. Additionally, should a VRP notify VR that they are available to accept new participants, the language here should include a timeline expectation of VR to update their systems. 5 business days should be sufficient to allow CRPs to be again selected after a time of not accepting referrals. Conclusion of Shares Inc. public comment. Again, Shares Inc. appreciates the ability to provide public comment regarding the proposed changes to 460 IAC 14. Our input is provided to allow BRS a perspective that represents an established CRP that has yielded successful outcomes for people with disability in the Hoosier State for over 35 years. It is our intention this public comment with VR and BRS takes these comments into careful consideration while making any changes to the historically successful VR program that Indiana is fortunate to have available to those with disabilities wanting to participate in the workforce in our Hoosier State. Respectfully, Joe Land, Director of Community and Day Services, Shares Inc., J Land, sharesinc.org, 812-390-6085. Again, my name is Michael Miller, Shares Inc.
Perfect. Thank you for that comment. Do we have anybody else? Is there somebody online to make a public comment? I see Zach. If you want to unmute yourself, you should be able to. And if you don't want to make a public comment, if you could just indicate that in the chat. Or we will assume after enough time that you do not want to, but I want to make sure you have an opportunity. I don't have a comment. Okay, perfect. So if there is nobody else, I don't think we have anybody else online or in the room to make a comment. Then I want to thank each of you for your attendance. The time is now 10:18 a.m. These proceedings pursuant to notice are hereby concluded, and this hearing is therefore adjourned. Thank you all for coming.